Have you ever wondered why some people stay calm even when everything around them is falling apart? They feel pressure, they notice stress, but they don't get pulled under by it. That's not luck, that's training. Calm isn't something you're born with, it's something your mind learns through repetition. Your brain reacts the way it's been taught to react. And most people were unknowingly trained to panic, rush, and overthink. Think about it. No one teaches you how to stay calm under pressure. But life constantly teaches you how to worry, how to hurry, how to expect problems. Over time, your mind learns that tension is normal. This audiobook isn't about avoiding difficult situations. It's about changing your internal response to them, because the situation isn't what controls you, your reaction does. Once you understand how calm is learned, you stop asking, "Why am I like this?" And you start asking, "How do I retrain my mind?" Calm people don't have easier lives. They have trained responses. They pause where others react. They breathe where others panic. They think clearly where others feel overwhelmed. And that ability isn't special. It's practiced. If you've ever felt like your mind reacts faster than you can think, this audiobook will show you how to slow that response and take control again. If this idea made you curious about what calm really is, like the video, subscribe for deeper mental clarity and share this with someone who needs steadiness more than motivation. Chapter 1: The calm you can carry. You don't need a quieter life. You need a quieter mind, not soft, not sleepy, quiet like a blade that doesn't shake, quiet like a pilot's hands in turbulence, quiet like a firefighter stepping into smoke with a clear plan. The world will not slow down for you, the pressure will not ask permission, the unexpected will not wait until you feel ready. So you train, not your circumstances, your mind. Most people think calm is a personality trait, something you're born with, like eye color. They look at someone steady under pressure and assume they're built different. That belief is convenient because it lets them avoid the work. But calm is not a gift. Calm is a skill, a system, a set of decisions and habits so practiced that your nervous system learns through repetition that you are safe even when things are loud. Picture an ocean. From the shore, you see the chaos, waves crashing, spray, white caps. You might think the whole ocean is turmoil. But drop below the surface and the water grows still. The deeper you go, the calmer it becomes. Most people live on the surface of their minds. Every thought, every notification, every problem, every opinion, every memory hits them like wind on water. They call it life. But you can learn to go deeper. You can learn to access the part of you that doesn't thrash just because the surface is active. I once watched a young paramedic handle a scene that would have unraveled most people. A car had spun into a guardrail. The driver was screaming. Bystanders were shouting conflicting advice. A phone was shoved into his face, recording. The air itself felt panicked. The paramedic moved like he had all the time in the world, not slow, precise. He checked breathing, stabilized the neck, gave instructions in a voice that didn't rise or tremble. Afterward, I asked him how he stayed so composed. He didn't say, "I'm naturally calm." He said, "I practiced it when nothing was happening." That's the first principle. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your training. In crisis, you won't suddenly become a new person. You'll become the most rehearsed version of yourself. If you rehearse panic daily, panic will show up on time. If you rehearse steadiness daily, steadiness will arrive, even when your heart is hammering. Your body doesn't distinguish between a real threat and an imagined one as well as you'd like to believe. A harsh email can trigger the same stress response as a physical danger. The mind shouts problem. The body floods with adrenaline. Your breathing shortens, your vision narrows, your patience evaporates, and your intelligence drops right when you need it most. Calm isn't the absence of that response. Calm is the ability to notice it early and guide yourself through it without letting it drive. You start by redefining calm. Calm is not feeling nothing. Calm is having feelings and still choosing your next move. Calm is staying present while your body wants to flee into reaction. Calm is the space between stimulus and response that you build on purpose, like a muscle. Think of a martial artist. When someone swings, the novice flinches with eyes closed and limbs rigid. The trained fighter sees the swing, breathes, shifts, and responds. The difference is not courage, it's familiarity. The body has been there before in practice, thousands of times. Your mind can be trained the same way. You can practice being the kind of person who does not get hijacked. Here is the simplest tool that almost no one takes seriously until life forces them to: your breath. Not in a mystical way, in a mechanical way. Your breathing is a remote control for your nervous system. Short, sharp breaths signal emergency. Long, steady exhales signal safety. When you lengthen your exhale, you tell your body, stand down. And when your body stands down, your mind regains access to clear thinking. Try this in ordinary moments so it becomes automatic in hard ones. In the morning, before you touch your phone, inhale through your nose and exhale longer than you inhale. Do it again and again. Let your shoulders drop, not as a sign of surrender, but as a sign of command. Inhale for 4, exhale for 6, or 3 and 5. It doesn't matter as much as the pattern. Calm is exhale-led. Do this when the stakes are low and your body learns the pathway. The second tool is attention. Whatever you give your attention to grows in your perception. If your attention is glued to worst-case scenarios, your mind manufactures danger. If your attention is glued to what you can control, your mind manufactures capability. Calm people are not people without problems. They are people whose attention has been trained to return to the present task. A friend of mine runs a small business. One week, a supplier failed, a customer threatened legal action, and an employee quit without notice. He told me he felt like he was drowning, like his thoughts were an angry swarm. Then he did something that sounded almost too plain to matter. He wrote down the next true step. Not the whole solution, not the 5-year plan. The next true step: call the supplier, draft an apology and a remedy, post the job listing. One step. Then the next and the next. The problems didn't vanish. His calm returned because his attention stopped sprinting into catastrophe and came back to action. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now let's continue. Now understand this: staying calm does not mean you move slowly. It means you stop wasting energy on noise. The mind loves noise because noise feels like control. Overthinking feels like work. Worry feels like preparation. Anger feels like strength. But those are illusions. True strength is clean energy directed at what matters. So we begin the training with a rule. When you feel the spike, you create a pause, a tiny pause, a pause so small no one notices, but big enough for you to choose. It can be one breath. It can be a blink and a softening of the jaw. It can be pressing your feet into the floor and feeling the ground. The pause is the doorway. Without it, you are a puppet pulled by whatever shows up. You'll discover something important when you start practicing pauses. Your triggers are predictable. The same types of situations hook you again and again. Disrespect, uncertainty, being misunderstood, feeling rushed, feeling powerless. When you map your triggers, you stop being surprised by yourself. And when you're no longer surprised, you're no longer owned. A manager I coached used to explode in meetings when his team brought problems without solutions. He called it standards. In reality, it was fear dressed as authority, fear of losing control, fear of looking incompetent. He decided to run an experiment. Before every meeting, he took 2 minutes alone. He did 3 slow exhales. Then he reminded himself of one sentence: "I can handle discomfort without punishing people." That sentence didn't make him gentle. It made him effective. The next time a problem landed in front of him, he felt the familiar heat rise. He paused. He asked one question to clarify reality. Then he assigned the next action. His team didn't become perfect, but the room changed. People bring their nervous system into the room with them. His calm became a standard others could meet. Here is another principle you must accept if you want calm in any situation. Calm is not something you wait for, it's something you bring. You don't wait until you feel calm to act. You act in a way that produces calm. You breathe first. You slow the exhale first. You name the next true step first. You create the pause first. Then the feeling follows. And yes, there will be moments when your body insists on panic. Your heart will race. Your hands will sweat. Your mind will shout. In those moments, your job is not to win an argument with your emotions. Your job is to stay in the driver's seat while the passengers scream. You can let the feeling ride without letting it steer. That's emotional discipline, not suppression. Leadership. When you begin this training, you'll also notice the quiet power of language. The words you use inside your head shape the intensity of your experience. "This is unbearable" creates a body that believes it's in danger. "This is difficult" creates a body that stays functional. "I can't handle this" collapses your posture. "I've handled hard things before" restores it. Your mind listens to your inner voice as if it's a commander. So speak like one. Tonight, or whenever you find yourself in a normal, uneventful moment, practice the foundation. Sit still for 60 seconds. Feel your breath. Lengthen your exhale. Notice where your mind runs. Bring it back to one sensation: air moving, feet on the ground, hands resting. You are not trying to become blank. You are training return. Return is calm. Return is strength. And when the real pressure arrives, you won't be reaching for a technique you barely remember. You'll be stepping into a familiar rhythm. Pause, exhale, orient to what's true, choose the next step, speak to yourself like someone you trust. As you step away from this first chapter, let the idea settle deep. You can carry calm into any room, any conversation, any crisis, because calm is not the room. Calm is you. Where in your life do you lose your calm most predictably? What physical signal shows up first when you're about to get hijacked? And what would change if, starting today, you practiced one deliberate pause, one longer exhale, and one next true step every time that signal appeared? Chapter 2. The pause before you speak. In the first stretch of this journey, you saw the truth most people avoid. Calm isn't a personality trait, it's trained. You learn to recognize the spike in your body, to lead with a longer exhale, to steer your attention back to the next true step, and to speak to yourself like a commander instead of a critic. Now we tighten the skill that makes all the other skills usable under pressure: the pause. There's a moment that decides the quality of your life, and it's smaller than you think. It's the half second before you react, the breath before you send the text, the beat before you snap back, the blink before you interpret someone's tone as disrespect. Most people live as if that moment doesn't exist. They believe they go straight from trigger to reaction like a fuse hitting flame, but the pause exists for everyone. The difference is that disciplined people see it, step into it, and take control. Imagine a door that only opens for 1 second. If you miss it, you're locked into the same old room, the room of regret, damage, control, and apologies that feel too late. That door is the pause, and your training is simple. You learn to find the door, you learn to enter it, and you learn to choose what kind of person walks out the other side. I want you to picture a man standing on a subway platform during rush hour. He's late, he's tense, his phone is dying, and the train is delayed. Someone bumps into him, not hard, not malicious, just the chaos of a crowded city. But his mind is already on fire, so the bump becomes an insult. He turns, eyes sharp, ready to unload every frustration he's been carrying all week. In that instant, his entire life is balanced on a thread. Not because the bump is important, but because the reaction is about to decide who he is in public, how his day unfolds, and whether he adds more conflict to a world that already has plenty. Now imagine a different version of him. Same delay, same phone, same crowd, same bump. But this time he feels the surge, notices it, and pauses. One breath, long exhale, feet on the ground. He doesn't need to be friendly. He just needs to be in control. He turns and says nothing, or he says all good and looks forward. He keeps his power. He keeps his day. That is not luck, that is training. The pause is the difference between being someone who reacts and being someone who responds. Reaction is automatic. Response is chosen. Reaction is fast and messy. Response is precise. Reaction is your past running the present. Response is your values directing your future. But here's what you must understand. The pause is not a thought. It's a body skill. If you try to pause only with logic, you'll lose when the stress response is strong. Stress hijacks logic. That's why your body has to be trained to create space before your mind tries to solve anything. So we build a physical cue, a ritual that happens whenever you notice the spike. It can be as simple as pressing your tongue gently to the roof of your mouth and letting your shoulders drop, or relaxing your hands, or unclenching your jaw. These small changes do something powerful. They interrupt the signal that says, "Fight now." They tell your nervous system, "Hold." A woman I worked with had a habit that was ruining her relationships. When she felt criticized, even lightly, her voice would sharpen and her words would turn into blades. She wasn't cruel on purpose. She was defending herself before she even understood what was happening. When we traced it back, the pattern was obvious. Criticism felt like danger. Danger triggered the body. The body triggered the reaction. So we didn't start by debating whether criticism was truly dangerous. We started by building the pause. Her cue was simple. The moment she felt her chest tighten, she would place one hand on the table or her lap and press down lightly as if anchoring herself. Then she would exhale longer than she inhaled. Not dramatically, quietly. That gave her 2 seconds. 2 seconds doesn't sound like much, but 2 seconds is an eternity when you've been living without any space at all. At first, she could only do it after she had already snapped. That's still progress, because noticing after the fact builds awareness. Then she started catching herself mid-sentence. She would stop, breathe, and restart. And then, after a few weeks, she began to catch the spike before she spoke. That's when her life started to change. Not because her circumstances changed, but because her timing did. This is how you train calm in any situation. You don't train for perfection. You train for earlier detection. You train to catch it sooner. You train to shorten the time your mind is hijacked. That's the real victory. Now we add the second part, what you do inside the pause, because the pause isn't just a gap. It's a workshop. It's where you build your next move. Inside the pause, you ask yourself one silent question. What is true right now? Not what you fear, not what you assume, not what your pride wants to prove. What is true? A tone of voice, a tight deadline, a mistake, a disagreement, a mess you have to clean up. Reality is often smaller than the story your mind is telling. When you return to what is true, you cut the fuel line to panic. Then you choose your intention. Intention is not a wish. It's a decision about how you will behave. Your intention might be, stay respectful, keep it simple. Solve, don't perform. Listen first. Speak slowly. Ask one clarifying question. Your intention becomes your steering wheel. A story can save you here. There was a time a team leader I knew walked into a meeting expecting routine updates. Instead, a client accused the team of missing deadlines and wasting money. The client's voice got louder, the room got tense, and the leader felt heat rush up his neck. He wanted to defend himself immediately, to prove he wasn't incompetent, to throw someone else under the bus if he had to. That's what ego does under threat. It scrambles for protection. But he had been training. He found the pause. He took one long exhale. He looked at the table for a brief moment, not in shame, but as a reset. Then he asked calmly, which specific deadline are you referring to, and what impact did it have on your team? That question did three things. It grounded the conversation in reality. It slowed the emotional tempo, and it gave him time to think. The client named the issue. The leader acknowledged it without collapsing. He didn't grovel and he didn't argue. He said, that delay is on us. Here, S what happened, here S what we've already changed, and here is what we will do next. No drama, no excuses, just ownership and action. The meeting ended with the client calmer than when it started. Not because the client was easy, but because the leader's nervous system set the tone. This is a hard truth. The calmest person often becomes the leader, even if they have no title. Calm is gravity. It changes the behavior of the people around you. Panic is contagious, but so is steadiness. Now let's make this practical in a way you can use today, in a conversation, in traffic, in a crisis, in a crowded room, in a moment where you feel pushed. First, you practice your pause when nothing is wrong. Pick 3 routine moments: when you open a door, when you sit down, and when you start your car. In each moment, take one exhale that is longer than your inhale. That's it. You are building a reflex. You are teaching your body that you know how to slow down on command. Second, you identify your personal ignition point. Some people ignite when they feel disrespected. Some ignite when they feel trapped. Some ignite when they feel embarrassed. Some ignite when things are uncertain. Your ignition point is the emotional match that lights the stress response fastest. Once you know it, you stop being surprised when it happens. You start preparing for it. Third, you set a rule for speech. Under stress, you reduce your words. The more activated you are, the fewer words you use. Stress makes people talk too much, explain too much, attack too much, defend too much. Calm people speak with economy. They ask a question. They state one truth. They name the next step. That's it. If you want to test your control, try this. When you feel provoked, delay your response by a single breath. One breath, not a lecture, not a countdown, just one breath. You will feel the urge to fill the space. Let the space exist. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is you refusing to be dragged. And if you fail, you don't spiral into self-hate. You return to training, you repair quickly. You say, "Let me restart." You take the breath. You speak again. That restart is a power move. It proves you are not trapped inside your first impulse. Near the end of your day, you run a quick mental rehearsal. You choose one moment you wish you had handled better. You replay it, but this time you insert the pause. You feel the spike, you exhale, you anchor, you ask what is true, you choose your intention, and you respond with fewer words. Your brain learns through rehearsal. This is how athletes train without moving. This is how you train calm without needing chaos. Because the goal isn't to avoid intensity. The goal is to become steady inside it, to be the person who can take a hit without swinging wildly, to be the person who can hear hard feedback without collapsing, to be the person who can face uncertainty without turning it into a disaster story. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. And as you let this chapter land, consider what your life would look like if you mastered that tiny door of the pause. What moments keep costing you the most because you react too fast? What does your body do first when you're about to lose control, and how quickly do you notice it? If you committed to one breath before you speak, one longer exhale when you feel the spike, and one intention chosen in silence, what kind of person would you become under pressure? And what kind of room would you create for everyone around you? Chapter 3. Facts, Stories, and the Thermostat Mind. You've already started building what most people never develop. The ability to notice the spike, create a pause, and choose a response instead of being dragged into reaction. You've practiced the longer exhale, the physical anchor, the return to what is true, and the discipline of fewer words under pressure. Now it's time to train the part that silently sets your emotional temperature before you even speak, the story you tell yourself. Most situations don't break you. The meaning you attach to them does. Two people can face the same event and experience completely different levels of stress. One sees a challenge, the other sees an attack. One sees a setback, the other sees humiliation. One sees a problem to solve, the other sees proof that they're doomed. The facts are identical, the stories are not, and the body responds to the story as if it's the truth. You can live like a thermometer, passively reflecting whatever temperature the room happens to be. Or you can train yourself to be a thermostat, setting the temperature from within. Thermometer people are at the mercy of other people's moods, random inconveniences, and unpredictable outcomes. Thermostat people still feel pressure, but they do not outsource their state. They decide what they will bring. This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means refusing to add unnecessary suffering. It means separating the raw facts from the dramatic interpretation. It means staying aligned with reality so your energy goes into action instead of chaos. Consider a simple example. You text someone, hours pass, no response, the fact is silence. The story might become, "They're ignoring me. I said something wrong. They don't respect me. I'm not important." Now your body tightens, your mind starts rehearsing confrontations, and you're no longer living in the day you have. You're living in a movie your mind produced without evidence. The thermostat mind doesn't deny the discomfort. It does something stronger. It says the fact is no reply yet. Everything else is a guess. Then it returns to the next true step. Wait, follow up at a reasonable time, or focus on what matters now. Under pressure, your mind defaults to one of three story styles: catastrophe, where everything becomes the end of the world; personalization, where everything becomes about you; and certainty, where you pretend you know what others mean and what will happen next. These stories are fast, persuasive, and usually wrong. They feel like intuition, but most of the time they're just old fear in a new outfit. A man I knew was promoted into a role with more visibility. The first time he presented to senior leadership, one person frowned and wrote notes. The fact was a neutral facial expression and a pen moving on paper. But his mind wrote a story in real time. They think I'm incompetent. I'm bombing. I shouldn't be here. His voice tightened. He rushed. He stopped listening to his own words. After the meeting, he replayed every second like it was evidence in a trial. Later, he learned the person had been writing down points they liked and frowning because the room's lights were harsh and causing a headache. His story had been a false alarm that stole his performance. The thermostat mind does not eliminate false alarms by hoping. It eliminates them by applying a method. Here's the method, and it's simple enough to use in the heat of the moment. First, name the facts in one sentence like a report. No adjectives that sneak in emotion. No loaded words, just what a camera would capture. A deadline moved earlier. A customer complained. Someone raised their voice. A plan failed. A mistake happened. This is your anchor to reality. Second, name the story your mind is telling. Say it internally with clarity. The story I'm telling is that I'm being attacked. The story I'm telling is that this will ruin everything. The story I'm telling is that I'm not respected. This step is powerful because it turns the story from truth into content. It becomes something you have, not something you are. Third, choose the better story, not the prettiest story. The most useful story that still respects the facts. Useful stories create action. Useful stories create options. Useful stories keep your nervous system within a range where you can think. A surgeon once described to me what calm looks like in a room where seconds matter. People assume a surgeon stays calm because they're fearless. The truth is less romantic and more teachable. They train themselves to keep their interpretation narrow. If something unexpected happens, they don't tell themselves, "This is a disaster." They tell themselves, "This is a complication with a protocol." That story doesn't deny the seriousness. It directs the mind toward the next true step. It keeps the hand steady. It keeps the room steady. Your mind can adopt the same discipline. When something goes wrong, replace global, vague stories with specific, solvable frames. Instead of "everything is falling apart," use "one part failed and I'm correcting it." Instead of "they don't respect me," use "I need to clarify expectations." Instead of "I can't handle this," use "this is uncomfortable and I can stay present." Notice what happens when you do that. Your body stays in a workable gear. You don't lose all your intelligence to adrenaline. You can still choose. Now you're not just changing words. You're changing what your nervous system believes is happening. That is real power. The body takes cues from interpretation. So if you want calm under pressure, you become ruthless about your interpretations. But there's a trap. Some people use positive thinking as denial. They paint over reality with optimism and then collapse later when reality demands competence. The thermostat mind does not lie. It frames. It keeps the truth and removes the poison. Here's how you practice this without waiting for a crisis. At the end of your day, choose one moment that triggered you. Write or think it through in 3 lines. The fact, the story you told, the better story you could have chosen. Then rehearse the better story while you take one longer exhale. This is not journaling for comfort. This is mental strength training. It teaches your mind what to do the next time the pattern appears. You can also practice in real time with a short reset phrase. When you feel your mind spinning, use a phrase that returns you to reality. Something like, facts first, or stay with what's true, or next true step. You're not searching for a magic sentence. You're creating a trigger that pulls you out of the movie and back into the room. And when you're dealing with people, there's another layer that changes everything. You stop reading minds. Mind reading is a calm killer. It turns uncertainty into certainty in the worst direction. The disciplined approach is to replace assumptions with questions, but not questions asked from a defensive place. Questions asked from stability. What do you mean by that? What outcome are you looking for? What specifically needs to change? These questions do not surrender power. They reclaim it. There's also a skill that separates steady people from reactive ones. They time their thinking. Most people try to solve their entire life while they're emotionally activated. That's like trying to fix a radio while someone is blasting noise into the speakers. Calm people postpone complex thinking until the body is calmer. They use the pause to stabilize first, then they plan. So if you catch yourself spiraling, give your mind a boundary. Not a lecture, a boundary. Say internally, I will think about this later when I'm steady. Then return to the body cue, long exhale, grounded feet, relaxed jaw, return to facts, return to the next true step. This is how you become a thermostat. One more truth, your mind will argue with you when you try to take control. It will say, but what if you're wrong? But what if they really are attacking you? But what if this really does ruin everything? That voice is not wisdom. It is the part of you that equates worry with preparation. You don't have to silence it, you have to lead it. You can acknowledge it and still choose the useful story. You can say, I hear you. We're staying with facts. We're taking the next true step. We're not burning energy on guesses. And sometimes the situation is genuinely serious. Sometimes the problem is real. The thermostat mind doesn't pretend otherwise. It simply refuses to add panic on top of urgency. Urgency can be useful. Panic is rarely useful. Urgency says, move with focus. Panic says, flail. Calm is what makes urgency effective. When you train this, you start noticing how often your emotional storms were fueled by narratives that never came true. You start saving energy. You start acting sooner and cleaner. You start earning self-respect because you're no longer the person who gets dragged by every thought that knocks on the door. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Leave a comment with your biggest takeaway and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. And as this chapter settles in, the real question becomes whether you're willing to be disciplined about your interpretations the way you're disciplined about your actions. When pressure hits and your mind starts writing a dramatic script, what would happen if you named the facts like a report and called the story what it is? Just a story. What useful story could you choose that keeps you in reality and keeps your nervous system in a workable gear? And if you practice that choice daily, in small moments and not just big ones, what kind of calm would you carry into the situations that used to control you? Chapter 4. Strength Under Heat. By now, you've started living differently in the moments that used to control you. You've learned to catch the spike early, Step into the pause instead of rushing into reaction, and use your breath and body to regain command. You've also learned to separate facts from the stories your mind invents, choosing a useful frame so you can stay in reality and take the next true step. Now we build the part that makes calm reliable when the pressure is real. Because knowing what to do is not the same as being able to do it when your heart is racing, when eyes are on you, when the stakes feel high, when your old patterns demand to take over. Calm in any situation isn't earned by avoiding stress. It's earned by training your capacity to carry stress without breaking your behavior. There's a reason elite performers look different under pressure. It's not because they have less fear. It's because they've rehearsed the feeling of fear while staying functional. They've built an internal strength that holds steady when the outside gets loud. They are not trying to eliminate discomfort. They are expanding what they can handle. Think of a blacksmith. Steel becomes strong not by being protected from fire, but by being placed in heat, hammered, cooled, and placed back in heat again. If you want a calm mind, you stop treating stress like an enemy that must be avoided. You start treating it like a weight you can learn to carry. Most people avoid discomfort until it finds them. Then they're shocked by how quickly they unravel. The disciplined person flips the script. They seek controlled discomfort on their own terms in small doses so the nervous system learns. This is intense and I can still steer. A singer once told me the first time she performed live, her hands shook so hard she could barely hold the microphone. She wasn't unprepared musically. She was unprepared physiologically. Her body interpreted the stage as danger. The lights felt like exposure. The audience felt like judgment. Her mind generated a story of catastrophe and her body obeyed. So she trained something most people never think to train. She practiced performing while her heart rate was already up. She would do a short burst of exercise, just enough to make her breathing heavy, then immediately sing the piece. At first it felt terrible. Her voice wobbled. Her mind screamed. But she kept going. She taught her system that arousal did not equal failure. She taught herself to keep technique intact even when the body was activated. The next time she stepped on stage, the sensations were familiar. Familiarity is calm's best friend. That's what you need. Familiarity with intensity. Here's the principle. If you only practice calm when you already feel calm, you're practicing in the easiest environment. That's like training for a storm by walking on a sunny day. Useful but incomplete. You must practice your skills while your body is slightly challenged, so the skills become available when you're actually under pressure. This is where most people get it wrong. They wait for a crisis to test their calm, then feel ashamed when they fail. Shame is a waste. You don't need shame. You need reps. So we build calm reps. Short, controlled exposures that teach your nervous system to stay in the driver's seat. Start with the smallest version, discomfort with no social risk. Do something mildly unpleasant on purpose and stay composed while doing it. Stand in a long line without reaching for your phone. Drive behind a slow car without tailgating or muttering. Finish your shower with a brief cold rinse and keep your face relaxed. Do a hard set of exercise and then slow your breathing before you move on. In these moments, you're not proving toughness. You're proving control. You're teaching your body, I can experience discomfort without reacting like it's an emergency. This matters because your mind has been trained for years to solve discomfort by escaping, scroll, snack, lash out, rationalize, quit. Those are not moral failures. They are conditioned responses, and conditioned responses can be retrained. Now, once you can handle private discomfort, you move to discomfort with small stakes. Create a timer for focused work and keep going even when you want to check messages. Have a short conversation you've been avoiding and practice speaking slowly. Make a request you've been afraid to make and tolerate the tension of not knowing the outcome. The point isn't to win. The point is to remain steady while you do it. There is a powerful shift that happens when you realize this. Calm isn't just what you do in the moment. Calm is what you build in advance. Calm is capacity. Capacity is the size of the space inside you that can hold pressure without collapsing into reaction. When your capacity is small, tiny problems feel huge. When your capacity grows, huge problems become manageable. The situation might be hard, but you remain usable. One of the best ways to build capacity is to practice recovering quickly. Most people think calm people never get rattled. That's not the standard. The standard is recovery speed. How quickly can you return to center after a spike? That's what makes calm practical. A businessman I worked with had an explosive pattern. Not screaming, but sharp emails, sarcastic comments, sudden decisions made in heat. He thought he needed to become a different person overnight. He didn't. He needed to shorten his recovery time. We designed a simple rule for him. When you feel yourself crossing the line, you step away for 60 seconds, not to sulk, not to escape responsibility, to recover. He would stand, walk to the restroom or a quiet corner, take a longer exhale, relax the jaw, and repeat one line internally. Facts first, next true step. Then he returned and continued the conversation. At first, he resisted. He thought stepping away looked weak. But what's weak is losing control and then spending hours repairing damage. Stepping away for 60 seconds is strength. It protects your relationships, your reputation, and your outcomes. Here's what to understand about that 60 seconds. It's not a timeout for the other person. It's a reset for your nervous system. You're training your body to learn a new pattern. Activation does not have to become escalation. Another way you build calm under heat is by rehearsing pressure before it arrives. This is not imagination for comfort. This is preparation for reality. Take a situation you know is coming, a difficult meeting, a conversation with someone who triggers you, a deadline that will compress time. You don't need to visualize success like a fantasy. You rehearse the skill sequence. You picture the spike. You picture the pause. You picture the long exhale. You picture yourself naming the fact, choosing the useful story, and speaking with fewer words. You picture yourself asking one clarifying question instead of defending. You picture yourself staying respectful while staying firm. Then you feel the body settling as you breathe. Your brain treats rehearsed pathways as more available. That means you walk into the situation with grooves already carved. You are no longer improvising your character under pressure. And now, the most important capacity builder of all, choosing discomfort instead of choosing drama. Many people confuse intensity with effectiveness. They think urgency requires panic. They think leadership requires loudness. They think strength requires aggression. That's theater. Real strength is quiet control. Real urgency is focused action. Your training moving forward is to remove drama from your system. Drama is the extra story, the extra words, the extra emotional flailing that does nothing but burn energy. Discomfort is the clean pain of growth and responsibility. Discomfort says, I'm doing something hard and I'm staying present. Drama says, I'm doing something hard and I need to make it harder. When you catch yourself getting dramatic, you don't scold yourself. You return to discipline. You reduce the story to facts. You return to the next true step. You shrink your world to what you can control in the next 5 minutes. A useful metaphor is a mountain climber on a narrow ridge. If they look too far ahead, they panic. If they look too far down, they freeze. The smart climber looks at the next foothold, the next grip, the next breath. Not because they're ignoring the danger, but because they respect the process that keeps them alive. Calm is the same. You respect reality by narrowing your focus to the next controllable step. Now, let's make this chapter land with a challenge that will change you if you actually do it. For the next 7 days, choose one daily calm rep that involves mild discomfort, one that involves focus, and one that involves recovery. Mild discomfort might be a short cold rinse, a hard exercise set followed by controlled breathing, or waiting calmly without distraction. Focus might be a timed work session where you don't check anything until the timer ends. Recovery might be practicing a 1-minute reset after any spike during the day, even if the spike is small. These reps are not punishment, they are construction. You are building a nervous system that doesn't crumble under heat. And when you fail, you treat failure like information. You don't turn it into identity. You ask, where did I lose the door of the pause? How late did I notice the spike? What story did I believe? What could I rehearse so next time I catch it sooner? That's how disciplined people grow. They don't demand perfection. They demand learning. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. As you move into the next phase of this training, remember what you're really doing. You are not trying to become someone who never feels pressure. You are becoming someone who can feel pressure and still choose their behavior. Where in your life do you keep waiting for calm before you act, instead of building calm through action? What controlled discomfort could you choose this week to expand your capacity without creating drama? And when the next spike hits, how quickly are you willing to recover, step back into the pause, and prove to yourself that you can carry heat without losing who you are? Chapter 5. The inner room no one can enter. You've already built the core mechanics. You notice the spike, you create the pause, you lead with the longer exhale, and you keep your attention anchored to what is true and what you can do next. You've learned to cut through the mind's dramatic scripts and choose a useful story, and you've begun training capacity so you can carry heat without losing your behavior. Now we take this training into the place where calm is tested most brutally: other people. It's easy to believe your calm is being stolen. Someone's tone, someone's impatience, someone's chaos, someone's panic, someone's criticism. It can feel like they reach into your chest and flip a switch. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is this: you're allowing your internal state to be negotiated in the moment, as if your nervous system is a public space where anyone can barge in and rearrange the furniture. You need an inner room. A private room inside you that doesn't open just because someone knocks. A place where your breathing stays yours, your attention stays yours, your meaning stays yours. The world can be loud outside that room. People can be unreasonable. Situations can be messy. But inside, you are governed by training, not by provocation. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. The fastest way to lose calm is to try to control what other people feel. The fastest way to keep calm is to control what you do. There was a teacher I met who worked in a school where the classroom could turn chaotic in seconds. Kids argued, shouted, tested limits, brought stress from home into every interaction. New teachers often tried to win by getting louder, by using force, by acting like intensity was authority. It never worked for long. The class simply learned to match the volume. This teacher did something different. When the room heated up, she lowered her voice, not as a trick, as a standard. She stood with relaxed shoulders, planted feet, and eyes that communicated, "I am not afraid of this moment." She would say one sentence calmly and clearly, and then she would wait. She refused to chase the chaos. She refused to bargain with it. She refused to be pulled into the emotional weather. Over time, the students adjusted because her nervous system became the strongest signal in the room. That is what it means to be a thermostat with people. You don't mirror their intensity. You regulate your own. Now this requires a shift in identity. Many people believe being calm means being passive. They think if they stay composed, they're letting others win. So they escalate to feel powerful. But calm is not softness. Calm is command. Calm is what allows you to be firm without being reckless. A person who stays calm can set a boundary without insulting anyone. They can say no without a speech. They can hold the line without raising their voice. They can walk away without slamming doors. They can disagree without turning it into war. They keep respect and power at the same time. To build that, you need a rule for social pressure. Here is the rule: you do not match energy, you match purpose. When someone comes at you emotionally, your instinct might be to match the emotional volume. But the better move is to match the purpose of the conversation. If the purpose is understanding, you slow down and ask for clarity. If the purpose is solving, you narrow the focus to what can be done next. If the purpose is a boundary, you state it once and repeat it calmly. If the purpose is to exit, you exit cleanly. Purpose keeps you from getting dragged into someone else's storm. And there's another hidden trap: explaining. Under stress, many people explain too much because they think explanations will calm the other person. Often, explanations are fuel. They give the other person more hooks to argue with. Calm communication is simple. It's clean. It is not a performance. It is a decision. A manager I knew struggled with an employee who would challenge everything. Every request turned into a debate. Every boundary turned into a negotiation. The manager kept getting pulled into long discussions, leaving each conversation drained and irritated. Then he changed one thing. He stopped trying to win the employee's agreement. He focused on clarity and consistency. He would state the expectation plainly. Then, if the employee argued, he would pause, take one longer exhale, and say, "I hear you. This is still the expectation." No heat, no sarcasm, no lecture, just a steady line. The employee didn't become instantly cooperative, but the dynamic changed. The debate died without drama because there was nothing to feed on. Calm with people is often about refusing to provide fuel. You should also understand something practical about your nervous system. It has limited bandwidth. If you spend it all on low-value emotional friction, you won't have it when real pressure arrives. That's why calm is not only what you do in arguments. Calm is how you manage inputs all day. Your mind is not designed to consume non-stop urgency. Constant alerts, constant headlines, constant opinions, constant conflict disguised as entertainment. It keeps your body lightly activated all day, like an engine idling too high. Then a real problem arrives and you're already depleted. You think you're reacting to the problem, but you're reacting with a nervous system that has been simmering for hours. So part of training calm is building an attention diet. You become disciplined about what you allow into your head before you've even used your tools. This is not about being uninformed. It's about being effective. If you want calm in any situation, you stop living in a constant stream of stimuli that trains reactivity. A simple practice: delay your first dose of noise. In the morning, before the phone, give yourself a short window of quiet. Use that time to breathe with the longer exhale and set one intention for how you will behave under pressure today. Not what you will achieve, but how you will respond. That one choice changes your baseline. Another practice: protect transitions. Most people carry stress from one moment into the next without noticing. They finish a tense email, then walk into a conversation already activated. They leave a stressful call, then drive with that same tension in their hands and jaw. The calm person clears the residue. So when you end something that raises your state, you do a micro reset. One longer exhale. Unclench the jaw, drop the shoulders, feel your feet, then step into the next moment. This is not relaxation. This is hygiene. You are keeping your nervous system clean, and you must respect the physical foundations. Calm is easier when you're rested, fueled, and stable. When you are sleep-deprived, your brain becomes more reactive. When you are underfed or overstimulated, your patience thins. This isn't weakness, it's biology. A disciplined person doesn't pretend biology doesn't matter. They use it. You don't need perfect sleep to be calm, but you do need to stop sabotaging yourself. Don't treat your body like an afterthought and then act surprised when your mind feels like a war zone. Calm is built in ordinary choices that seem unrelated until pressure tests you. Now bring this back to people where the real proof appears. The next time someone tries to pull you into their intensity, you will feel the urge to speed up. You will feel the urge to defend, to prove, to attack, to explain, to win. That urge is the old pattern trying to keep you familiar. You do not obey it, you anchor first. Long exhale, relaxed hands, feet grounded. You name the fact internally. A raised voice. A criticism, a demand, a misunderstanding, you name the story. The story is that I'm being disrespected. The story is that I have to fix their feelings. The story is that I must respond immediately. Then you choose the useful story. I can be steady and clear. I can set a boundary without heat. I can respond slowly and still be strong. Then you choose one of three moves depending on purpose. If it's confusion, ask one clarifying question and listen. If it's conflict, state your point briefly and stop feeding the argument. If it's disrespect, set a boundary and, if necessary, leave. There is a form of power that does not require escalation. It requires control. It requires the ability to hold your center when someone tries to move it. And you will be tempted to prove you're calm by swallowing everything. That's not calm. That's avoidance. Calm does not mean you tolerate what you shouldn't. Calm means you address what you need to address without becoming chaotic. Calm means you can say, "That doesn't work for me," with a steady voice and a steady body. Calm means you can be kind without being weak and firm without being cruel. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. As you move forward, let the inner room become real. In the next tense conversation, can you keep your breath and your pace when the other person speeds up? When you feel provoked, Can you match purpose instead of matching energy, and choose one clean sentence instead of a flood of explanations? When the day is loud, can you protect your attention and clear the residue between moments so your nervous system doesn't carry yesterday's stress into today's choices? And if you practice that inner room every day, what kind of presence would you become in the rooms where you used to lose yourself? Chapter 6. The life you lead from calm. You've built the foundation brick by brick. You notice the spike, you create the pause, and you use your breath and body to regain command. You've learned to separate facts from the stories that inflate fear, to choose a useful frame that keeps you in reality, and to expand your capacity through controlled discomfort and fast recovery. You've also built an inner room that stays yours in the presence of other people, matching purpose instead of matching energy and protecting your attention so you don't live in a constant simmer. Now we finish by turning calm from a tool you use sometimes into a way you live always. Because the real win is not staying calm in one hard moment. The real win is becoming the kind of person whose calm becomes a standard, a reputation, a force. The kind of person who can walk into chaos and make it smaller. The kind of person who can carry responsibility without carrying panic. The kind of person who does not hand their mind over to whatever happens next. Calm is not the absence of fire. Calm is the ability to move through fire without becoming it. There is a reason this matters beyond comfort. Your calm determines your choices. Your choices determine your outcomes. Your outcomes determine your life. If your mind is always reacting, your life becomes a series of reactions. You end up living in a pattern designed by other people's moods, random problems, and the loudest voice in the room. But if you can stay calm in any situation, you become the author. Not because you control everything, but because you control what you do with everything. I want you to imagine two futures that begin on the same day. In the first future, you keep doing what most people do. You wake up and let noise rush in. You move fast, speak fast, think fast, and mistake that speed for strength. You let small irritations stack into a heavy mood. You treat every stress signal like a command to react. You overthink at night and call it planning. You carry tension into conversations and wonder why people feel on edge around you. You survive, but you're always bracing. The world feels like it's happening to you. In the second future, you train. You keep the same life, the same deadlines, the same people, the same unexpected problems, but you build a different internal response. You start your day with one long exhale and an intention about behavior, not outcome. You treat the first spike as a signal to pause instead of a signal to attack. You name facts, catch the story, and choose the useful frame. You keep your speech clean and economical under pressure. You recover quickly instead of doubling down. You protect transitions and clear residue so you don't drag yesterday into today. When someone tries to pull you into chaos, you hold your inner room and match purpose. Over time, you stop being someone who is constantly managing damage. You become someone who produces stability. These are not two different lives. They are the same life lived through two different nervous systems. So here is what ties everything together. Calm is a practice of leadership. Leadership of the body, leadership of attention, leadership of interpretation, leadership of speech, leadership of behavior. Every chapter has been about the same thing from a different angle, taking the steering wheel back. And now you lock it in with a simple daily structure, not a complicated routine that collapses when life gets busy. A structure that makes calm automatic. First is the morning set. Before you let the world talk to you, you talk to your nervous system. 1 minute is enough. You take a longer exhale than inhale. You relax the jaw. You drop the shoulders. You feel your feet. Then you choose one intention that will govern you when pressure hits. Something like, I will pause before I speak. Or facts first, next true step. Or match purpose, not energy. This is not motivation, this is programming. You're deciding who shows up before the day starts negotiating with you. Second is the midday reset. At some point you will get activated. That is guaranteed, so you plan for it. You do not wait for perfection. When you notice tension, you do a micro reset. Long exhale, relaxed hands, simple posture. You return to what is true. You choose the next true step. This is where you win the day because most people never interrupt the build-up. They let stress accumulate until it spills out. You stop the spill before it begins. Third is the evening review, not a guilt session, a training session. You choose one moment you handled well and reinforce it. You choose one moment you could have handled better and rehearse the better version. You insert the pause, you insert the breath, you insert the useful story, you insert fewer words, then you let it go. You're teaching your brain what to do next time. That is how calm becomes a skill you can trust. Now understand the deeper shift you're making. You are moving from being a person who depends on conditions to being a person who creates conditions. A calm person changes rooms. They change conversations. They change outcomes. Not through manipulation, but through presence. When you walk into a tense meeting with your breath under control, your voice steady, your words clean, you lower the temperature. When you handle criticism by returning to facts and asking one clarifying question, you turn conflict into problem solving. When you face a mistake and respond with ownership and the next true step, you build trust. When you refuse to match someone's chaos and instead hold your inner room, you model stability. People feel that. They may not compliment it. They may not even understand it, but they will respond to it. And you will respond to yourself differently too. Because one of the biggest benefits of calm is self-respect. Self-respect is built when you keep your word to yourself, when you handle pressure without betraying your values, when you don't let your first impulse decide your character. Every time you pause instead of react, you vote for the person you want to be. Every time you return to facts instead of stories, you vote for clarity. Every time you recover quickly instead of escalating, you vote for discipline. Every time you match purpose instead of energy, you vote for leadership. Over time, those votes become identity. Calm stops feeling like effort. It starts feeling like you. But let's be real. There will be days when you slip. Someone will catch you tired. Something will hit a nerve. Your body will spike before you can think. In those moments, do not make the mistake that ruins people. Do not turn a moment into a sentence about who you are. Failure is not identity. Failure is feedback. You get hijacked, you return. You restart. You repair if needed. Then you rehearse. That's it. That is the work. That is the path. There's also a final truth you need if you're going to take this into the real world. Calm is not always quiet. Sometimes calm is direct. Sometimes calm is saying stop. Sometimes calm is saying no. Sometimes calm is making a hard decision without drama. Sometimes calm is walking away without a speech. The goal was never to become passive. The goal was to become unshakable. To be steady enough to be honest. To be clear enough to be firm. To be disciplined enough to act. If you want proof that this is real, look at the moments in history, in business, in sport, in crisis response, where one person's steadiness changed the outcome. Not because they were superhuman, but because they kept their mind when others lost theirs. That is the advantage you're building. Calm is not just emotional comfort. Calm is strategic. So here is your call to action, and it's simple, but it's not easy. You don't get calm by agreeing with these ideas. You get calm by practicing them until they become reflex. You will train the pause like your reputation depends on it, because it does. You will lead with the longer exhale because your nervous system is listening. You will name facts and catch stories because your mind will try to sell you drama. You will choose the next true step because action beats panic. You will reduce your words under stress because clarity is power. You will recover quickly because escalation is expensive. You will protect your attention and clear residue between moments because you are not built to live in constant urgency. You will hold your inner room in front of other people because your state is not a public space. Do it in small moments. Do it when it seems insignificant. Do it when no one is watching. That's where the person you become is decided. And one day you will notice something that feels almost unreal. A situation that would have ruined your day shows up and you handle it. Not perfectly, but cleanly. You feel the spike, you pause, you breathe, you choose. You stay present, you stay effective, and afterward you don't feel drained by regret. You feel strong, quietly proud because you kept your mind. That is calm, carried, earned, owned. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Leave a comment with your biggest takeaway and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now let's continue. So as you step forward from this final chapter, let the questions that matter follow you into real life, not as pressure, but as direction. When the next spike hits, will you remember that the pause is the door and the exhale is the key? When your mind starts writing a dramatic script, will you return to facts and choose a useful story that keeps you capable? When the day gets loud, will you protect your attention, clear the residue, and walk into the next moment clean? When someone tries to pull you into chaos, will you hold your inner room and match purpose instead of matching energy? And if you commit to this training for the next 30 days, not in theory but in practice, what kind of calm would you carry? What kind of choices would you make? And what kind of life would you lead from that calm?